They thought fire would be enough, that ashes could silence centuries of rage. But in the village of Ojukoro, deep in the heart of a forgotten forest, even death whispers back, louder than ever. This is the tale of the witch's doll that moved, even after the priest burned it. Ojukoro was not marked on any modern map. Nestled beyond dense forests, past the seventh bend of the Crocodile River, the village remained untouched by machines or modern light. Here stories weren't just told, they lived. Elders whispered of creatures with many eyes, trees that could weep, and masks that sang at night. But there was one tale that no elder would finish. A name they refused to speak after dusk. Ifan. The children would dare each other to whisper. Ifan, the witch who bled shadows. She died 50 years ago, or so they said. But the elders insisted that when Ifan died, she cursed not just the land, but the very souls of Ojukoro. Her body was burned, and her hut was buried beneath layers of ash and salt. But the doll she left behind was never found, till now. It was mid-harvest, and 14-year-old Oba wandered beyond the palm grove in search of wild mushrooms. His mother had warned him about the forbidden East Trail, but curiosity is often a louder voice than caution. He followed the scent of something sweet and strange, like hibiscus mixed with rot. And there, in a clearing shaped like a crescent moon, he saw a calabash, cracked, old, and sealed with dried palm resin. Curious, he pried it open. Inside was a small wooden doll, about the size of his palm. Its eyes were closed, its body charred. Its hair was made of woven goat fur, and its smile was carved in a way that didn't seem friendly. It seemed knowing. As he lifted it, the air turned heavy. The leaves rustled even though no wind blew. A crow screeched and flew overhead. Oba blinked. The doll's eyes were now open. Oba raced home, clutching the doll tightly. His sister Zena scolded him for being late, but Oba said nothing. He didn't tell her about the calabash, or the weight he now felt in his chest. That night, Oba placed the doll on his wooden shelf, next to a cracked radio and his carving knife. He turned to sleep but couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. At midnight, the air grew colder than it had ever been in Ojukoro. Oba turned in his bed. The floor creaked. He sat up slowly. The doll was gone. He looked around wildly, his heart pounding, only to find the doll sitting on the windowsill, its eyes glowing faintly red in the moonlight. The next morning, the knife next to where the doll once sat was buried in the wall across the room. Oba took the doll to Elder Morikino, the oldest man in Ojukoro. Nearly blind, with skin like weathered bark, Morikino could still smell evil. The moment he touched the doll, he recoiled. "You have brought death back into our breath, child. This is not a toy. This is Ifan's last breath carved into wood." Oba asked him what to do. "You must not keep it. You must not bury it. You must not let it touch fire alone." Oba frowned. "But how do I destroy it?" Morikino whispered. "You don't destroy such things. You contain them. With blessing, with song, with sacrifice. Or you pay the price in blood." Word of the doll spread quickly. The villagers grew afraid. Children fell ill. Goats gave birth to still kids. At night, the sound of drums echoed from the forest, though no one was playing them. In desperation, the village called Father Adioi, a traveling priest known for banishing demons and cleaning haunted lands. He arrived with salt, holy water, and scriptures. He examined the doll and scoffed. "It's only a carving. Superstition gives power to wood." That night he held a public cleansing. The villagers gathered as he drenched the doll in holy water, reciting prayers in Yoruba and Latin. Finally, he placed it on a pyre and set it aflame. As the flames engulfed it, a strange high-pitched scream echoed across the village. A scream not heard by ears but felt in the teeth. By morning, only ashes remained, or so they thought. That night, Oba woke again to find his door creaking open. The air smelled of burned feathers and old perfume. At the foot of his bed lay something, twitching. It was the doll, blackened, gray, a hole. And this time its smile was wider, too wide, stretching past the limits of its carved face. Father Adioi denied it, said someone must have carved a replica, but he looked pale, shaken. That night, he locked himself in the shrine and wouldn't open the door, even as strange chanting was heard within. The next morning, the villagers found him outside the shrine, naked, eyes rolled back, laughing in a woman's voice. Inside the hut, the walls were scratched with symbols no one could read, except Morikinio. These are marks of the Ifungi, the death smile. It means she is not reborn but awakened. That doll was not her vessel, it was her tether. And now she walks. Xena grew ill that night. She claimed the doll sang to her, said its voice came from the floorboards, from her pillow, from under her skin. The priest had vanished by then. The next morning, goats were found standing still, eyes bleeding. No predator had touched them. They had simply died of fright. Elder Morikinio told the tale at last. When Ifan was killed, her body was buried beneath the twisted tree by the crescent clearing. But before she died, she carved that doll with her own nails, fed it with her blood. She told the earth that if her body died, her soul would wait in wood, until someone foolish enough would carry it home. He turned to Oba, eyes heavy with sorrow. You, my boy, have opened the calabash of the forgotten, and the land is awake again. The villagers rushed to the tree, hoping to burn it down. But it wept, real tears, thick, black and foul. As the flames touched its bark, a woman's laugh echoed from inside the trunk. That night was the last peaceful night Ojikoro would ever know. The moon hung red over the village. And inside Oba's home, the doll no longer moved when watched. Twak. It danced in shadows. And it whispered names, one by one, until it whispered Xena's. Xena had not spoken in 2 days. She sat on the mat in her mother's hut, eyes glassy, lips muttering a song that no one recognized. A song of cracked bones and drowning trees. Every time someone tried to touch her, she shrieked. But what chilled everyone to their marrow was her laugh, deep and hollow. Not hers, Ifan's. She sees me in the mirror, Xena whispered once. She braids my hair at night. When Oba entered, Xena stopped speaking. She would simply point to the top shelf, where the doll now sat cross-legged, facing the wall. Oba had tried again. He placed the doll in a pile of kindling soaked with palm oil and salt. He lit the fire, praying to both old gods and the new. The flames rose. And yet, the doll remained, not unscathed. It blackened, cracked, but never broke, never screamed again. It simply sat, and smiled wider. When Oba reached to grab it with tongs, it was cold, not even warm, as if the fire had bowed to it. Later that night, Xena whispered in her sleep, "Fire cannot burn what was birthed in fire." The priest returned on the third night, barefoot, eyes swollen with sleepless madness. But he was no longer wearing his collar. Instead, he carried a pouch of cowrie shells and a staff carved with 7 eyes. He had gone into the jungle, they said, to the bone grove, to seek the seer of stones. He no longer spoke like a man of the church. You wanted a priest, he told Oba. But what you need is a tether breaker. This is no demon of scripture. This is an echo, a memory that fights to live again. He looked at the doll and said softly, "She has chosen your sister. But she's not done choosing yet." That night, Father Adioi prepared a ritual under the moon, on the edge of the red sands beyond the village. Oba, Xena, and Morikinio gathered with a small crowd. Chickens were sacrificed. Sacred chalk was drawn in spirals that glowed faintly under starlight. They placed the doll in the center. "We do not kill her," the priest warned. "We seal her. But the price will be taken in pain. One of us must offer memory, something precious, so she will forget herself long enough to sleep." Oba stepped forward. He whispered his most cherished memory. his father lifting him to the top of the mango tree, singing the warrior's song. As the words left him, he felt something tear inside his mind. He remembered the tree. But his father's face was gone. The doll stirred. The sky darkened unnaturally, as if a hand had smothered the moon. Xena stood suddenly, eyes rolled back, arms spread wide. She began to sway, her limbs moving in jagged patterns. Not human. Not rhythmic. The dance of the shadow woman had begun. Dust rose around her feet, though there was no wind. Crows circled. A baby cried in the distance. The chalk symbols burned blue, then violet. Xena's mouth opened, and Ethan spoke through her. I carved my name in bone. I braided my spirit in wood. I watched you burn my body. But you left my laugh behind. Now I dance. And you will forget yourselves until only I remain. The priest struck the ground with the eye-carved staff. Lightning split the sky. Xena screamed and collapsed. The doll began to convulse. Its mouth split at the corners. Wood cracked but didn't break. Seal her! Father Adioi yelled. Morikinio chanted in an ancient tongue, older than the village itself. Oba, tears streaming, picked up the doll and placed it in the iron calabash the priest had brought, a container once used to imprison cursed spirits. As he closed the lid, the doll's head turned. It looked straight at him, and smiled. Oba fell back. The calabash snapped shut. Silence fell. Xena woke up, remembered nothing. Her eyes were her own again. The birds returned. The goats birthed healthy kids. The air smelled of wood smoke and cola nut, not blood. People laughed again. Danced. Thanked Father Adioi. He warned them. It is not destroyed. Just sleeping. The calabash must never be opened. Not even in curiosity. It must be kept under salt, iron and prayer. They buried it beneath the shrine floor. With 7 elders as witness. 3 days later, a boy named Kumi, just 9 years old, wandered into the shrine during hide and seek. He found a small crack in the floor. Beneath it, a rusted calabash, humming faintly. He listened, and he heard music, a woman's song. A weep, like his mother used to sing before she died. Kumi smiled, and opened the lid. The next morning Kumi was gone. But his voice echoed across the village that night, singing the same lullaby. The iron calabash was empty, and on Oba's doorstep sat the doll, smiling, singing, waiting. At first, the villagers thought it was just the harmattan wind whispering through the cracks in their walls. But when Amma, the palm wine tapper's daughter, woke to find her hair braided in tight little knots she had never done herself, and her door wide open, they began to fear. She heard it too. That same song. Crooked. Like it had been hummed with a broken throat. Sleep, sleep, child of bone. And somewhere far off Kumi laughed. Oba, now restless and suspicious, patrolled the village at night. Ever since the doll returned, he had sensed it. Shadows moving where there should be none. One night, while sitting by his sister Xena's bed, he heard footsteps above them. He looked up. The thatch ceiling bent inward, as if someone walked on it upside down. When he ran outside to check, there were no prints. But when he came back inside, the doll had moved, just slightly, its head now tilted toward Xena. The village wise man, Morikinio, summoned Oba and Father Adioi to his hut. He had been reading from a forbidden scroll buried in the ruins of Ailoro, the city of whispers. This is no longer just a haunting, he said. The doll is evolving. Each time it returns, it learns. It is no longer bound by the same rules. Father Adioi clenched his fists. What does she want? Morikinio looked grave. To be remembered. To wear flesh again. To dance not as shadow, but as queen. 3 days after his disappearance, Kumi returned. But he was wrong. His skin was pale. His eyes empty. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. He only sang that same lullaby. The elders tried to cleanse him, but every drop of holy water sizzled on his skin. At night, They saw him standing motionless under the old iroko tree, just watching the village. And when they approached him, he vanished into dust and ash, only to reappear the next day, braiding the mane of the goat or swinging on the broken swing behind the school. Xena said, "That is not Kumi. That is her shell." One morning, every child in Ojikoro woke to find a small white pebble beneath their pillow, engraved with a symbol, like a spiral with a slit in the middle. Morikinio gasped when he saw it. "She's marked them. She's chosen new players." It was a game. And the rules? No one knew until the first child vanished. Gone in broad daylight. No scream. No trace. Only her pebble remained, now blood red. Oba began to dream. In the dream, he stood in a vast field of black grass. The sky was violet. The moon had teeth. And in the distance, the doll danced around a bonfire of toys, laughing. Xena was beside him in the dream. So was Kumi. But none of them moved. They were frozen like puppets. And the doll pulled their strings. When Oba woke, his legs ached. And his fingers were covered in soot. He rushed to Xena's room. She was gone. Only her red pebble remained on the pillow. They rushed to the village shrine to see if the calabash was missing again. But it was still there, sealed. Except now it was laughing. A low, mocking chuckle that echoed inside, though no mouth existed. Father Adioi fell to his knees. "We didn't seal her. We only locked the door. She left her key behind. The doll was never the prison. The doll is the gate," Morikinio whispered. "And someone has opened it too wide to close again." Desperate, Oba traveled with the priest and Morikinio to the hills of Igbeanio, where the last game maker lived, an old woman named Nene, keeper of the night gourd. She had once banished a river spirit using only a spider's web and a whisper. Nene listened to the tale. She laughed. Hollow, mirthless sound. "You think she's a witch. Ethan was never just a woman. She was the breath between stories. She is a tale that eats its teller." Benelt, "Please, tell us how to end it." Nene leaned in. "You don't end stories like her. You trap her in a better tale. One she cannot twist. One she cannot win." The old woman gave them a mirror. "If you want to find Xena, go into the dream. But speak no truth. Only lie. In her world, truth feeds her." That night, Oba held the mirror. He sang the lullaby but backwards. The mirror bled. And then it opened. He stepped through. Into the field of black grass once more. Xena stood tied to a tree of dolls. Hundreds of them. Each doll had a face from the village. Kumi. Even old ones, people long dead. Ethan stood behind them, wearing a dress made of children's shadows. Her eyes were hollow lanterns. She welcomed Oba with a smile. "Another move. But you are late. My turn is almost done. And then I will wake, as Xena." Oba took a deep breath. "You never scared me, Ethan." She blinked. Oba smiled. "You're not the scariest thing in the village." Ethan tilted her head. "Lie. Truth," Oba whispered. And the dolls began to twitch. In the field of black grass, time was a loop. Days folded like cloth. Minutes bled into years. Oba stood before the tree of dolls, where Xena's soul was pinned between two stories. Ethan, the witch in her shadow-stitched dress, laughed softly as the dolls mimicked her movements, dancing in jerks as if they too wanted to be real. "She's almost ripe," Ethan whispered. "One more memory and I'll wear her voice." Oba clenched his jaw. "You think you've won." "I've never lost," she answered. "I'm the tale your ancestors were too scared to tell aloud." But Oba remembered Nene's warning. To trap her, you must lie so well she forgets who she is. Oba stepped forward, eyes locked with the witch's. "Do you want to hear your own tale?" he asked. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Mine." Oba nodded. "The real one. Not the whisper behind closed doors. Not the one they buried." The field stilled. Even the wind paused. Ethan leaned in. "Speak, boy. I hunger for fiction." And so Oba began the first lie. You were never a witch. You were the village healer. Loved, praised. You cured the twins of the bleeding sickness. The chief's wife named her child after you. Until jealousy poisoned the people. Ethan frowned. That's not true. Oba smiled. Of course it isn't. But it could have been. It should have been. The tree of dolls quivered. One doll blinked. They feared your power, so they framed you. When they hanged you at the cross of the 3 roads, your daughter carved a doll from your bone. Not to curse, but to remember. Ethan took a step back. Her laughter faltered. Lies, she whispered. You said you wanted fiction. The ground trembled. Dolls began dropping from the tree, twitching as if waking from a long nightmare. Xena's lips moved. She was waking. Oba took a deep breath. You were a mother, not a monster. Ethan's form flickered, becoming smoky around the edges. Her shadow-stitched dress unraveled, thread by thread. She reached for Oba's throat. If I am not feared, then what am I? Oba didn't flinch. You're forgotten. That's worse than fear. Ethan screamed. The sky turned black-red. The moon opened its eye. But the dolls were falling, one by one, free from her tree. Xena's hands moved. Her voice whispered Oba's name. Morikiniyo had once said, stories are blades. Tell the wrong one and it cuts the wrong throat. Oba told the 3rd lie. When you died, the gods mourned. They sent crows to carry your name to the stars. You were not cursed. You were canonized. But the people twisted your tale. Ethan fell to her knees. The wind howled, carrying echoes of children's laughter, not screams. Oba walked up to her. And now I rewrite you. But the witch wasn't done. You think only you can spin yarn, she hissed, rising with bleeding eyes. You sang. And the song became story. In her version, Oba was the one who carved the doll. He was the cursed child. Xena was never real. The village was a hallucination. And all of it, every memory, was just the doll's dream. Oba clutched his head. His memories cracked. Xena vanished. The dolls returned to the tree. It became a war of tales. Oba and Ethan circled each other in the dream. Each word reshaped the field. Each story bending time, color, and memory. Oba screamed. You were the one who betrayed the river god. Ethan cried. You were born of crow bones and grief. Reality splintered. The dolls chanted. The earth wept. And above it all, the doll, the very one they thought destroyed, walked toward them, growing taller with every step. As it approached, it whispered in a voice that was both Ethan and Oba. Enough. It turned its head 360 degrees. The field went silent. You two are the same. Fearful storytellers afraid of silence. Oba trembled. Who are you? The doll reached out. I am the story you both forgot. The truth neither of you want told. I am the ending. Then it opened its chest. Inside, Xena curled in the fetal position, crying. Oba lunged, but Ethan held him back. This isn't your tale anymore. Far away in the real world, Nene sat before her night gourd. She crushed a spider's egg, whispered a forgotten word, and spat into the flame. Then she said, You are not the ending. You are the comma. In the dream field the sky cracked. Oba saw a thread, thin as breath, stretching from the doll's chest to Nene's gourd. He grabbed it, pulled, and with a scream, Xena flew from the doll's chest into his arms. The doll shrieked. You cannot steal the climax. Oba replied. I'm not stealing. I'm editing. Xena opened her eyes. Oba held her tight. The doll began to burn, this time from within. Ethan collapsed, her body dissolving into moths. And the field shattered. Oba and Xena landed in the shrine, real, breathing, sobbing. The mirror lay broken. Doll Nawash. And in the silence that followed, Father Adioi whispered. The tale is over. Morikiniyo looked at Nene. She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the soot in Oba's hand. Moved. The ashes of the doll still moved, swirling in Oba's palm like a dying wind with a heartbeat. Father Adioi stepped back. Burnt. Broken. So why is it still here? Nene bent close, her breath stirring the soot. Because stories don't end when told. They end when forgotten. Zena shivered in Oba's arms. She whispered. It followed us. Part of it came back, inside me. Oba's heart dropped. What do you mean? That night, as the moon climbed high, Oba woke to find Zena sitting upright, unmoving, eyes wide and glassy. She spoke in a voice not her own. Why did you lie to me, Oba? Why did you trap me in your story? He froze. Zena. But it was the doll speaking, wearing her voice like a borrowed dress. You gave me a new name. A new vessel. Now I write the final page. Zena turned to face him slowly, head tilting unnaturally. Oba was pulled back into the field of black grass. Only this time the sky was stitched, like fabric trying to hold itself together. In the center stood the doll, now 10 feet tall, face blank, limbs long and crawling. Zena was nowhere. You told the tale wrong, the doll said. So I rewrote it. Oba spat. Where is Zena? The doll opened its chest again, but this time inside was not Zena. It was him. Trap. Screaming. Nene lit her final fire ritual. Morikinio wept beside her. He's not strong enough. It's writing him out of the world. But Nene whispered. Then we write him back in. She began a counterspell. Not magic but storytelling. She told a tale of Oba the trickster, the boy who told lies so clever they became truth. Each word formed a thread, pulling Oba back from the chest, back from the doll's stomach of memories. In the dream, Oba stood before the doll. You forgot the first rule of stories, he said. The best ones always have an unexpected twist. He held up a mirror. One Ethan had broken long ago. In it, the doll saw its true self. Not a witch's curse. Not a forgotten god. Just a girl's grief, carved into wood and left to rot in revenge. The doll screamed. And with that, it shattered, becoming 1,000 tiny voices flying into the void. Oba woke up. Zena gasped beside him. The mirror was now whole again, but black. Nene approached. Did you finish the tale? Oba looked at his hands. They were normal. But a splinter remained in his palm. Pulsed. Father Adioi poured holy oil on the ground. This shrine must be buried. No more mirrors. No more dolls. But Nene stopped him. You don't bury stories. You pass them on. Morikinio agreed. Let the next generation fear it. That's how you remember. Zena stared at the black mirror. I don't want to forget. But I don't want to remember it as real either. Oba took her hand. Then we tell it like a legend. So it never becomes a curse again. The shrine was sealed with iron and salt. Children were told bedtime stories of the witch's doll. But now the moral changed. Lies told with love can save. Oba and Zena became keepers of the tale. They traveled, retelling it in villages, changing details each time. And with every version, the doll lost more power. But one truth remained in every telling. If the doll moves again, don't finish its story. Years passed. Oba and Zena grew older. They had children, then grandchildren. But one night, Oba felt a familiar itch in his palm. The splinter had grown. It poked through his skin like a tooth. And in the hallway, their granddaughter played with a wooden toy. Painted red. Ice too old for her hands. Oba froze. Zena. She appeared beside him, eyes wide. It's dreaming again. As the camera pans out on the old village, a child's voice can be heard reciting. Once upon a time, there was a doll who only wanted to be remembered. But when the priest burned it, it got angry. And when it got angry, it started dreaming. And when it dreamed, the screen fades to black. But, wooden footsteps echo in the dark. It moved.